Hamsters in caves.
We're live, everybody. Woo! We got it going.
The hamsters woke up.
To O'hm Gron. No, this is wrong show. Wrong day, wrong show. Welcome to O'hmettes Friends. I think that's what we're called today. Anyway, so yeah, sorry guys, for whatever reason the little squirrel inside my computer was not running fast enough and I had to give it a kickstart. But we got it going.
It was running backwards, Tam.
What?
It was actually running backwards.
Yeah, it was running backwards. That was it. That's exactly it.
And Tam, before you get into your little spiel, Simon and I want to know if you all are the O'hmettes, what does that make us?
Friends.
Okay.
Accomplices, if you want to get technical.
Of course, you are
accomplices. Tell it like it is.
You were on yesterday with the Ohmies, so you are an Ohmy. So
yeah.
Naomi, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just checking. That was very anticlimactic. I figured that you'd have something to say and then I'd have a smart ass comment, but that didn't happen.
Oh, I
didn't. You said friends, and I'm like, how can I argue with that?
Yeah, how can you argue with friends? We all need friends.
Who we got?
And there's Joel with it. No, Joel, we're not going there because I've already had to go there with other people. So I'm not going there with that one. Anyway, we're started. So welcome back, everybody. Another Monday with the O'hmettes and our friends. And we have Simon.
Hello.
And our beautiful Liana, who has a new do. And we have the Vapin Trucker. And I'm pointing at you like I know where you're at on the screen, and I don't. I'm sure it's different. Yeah, exactly.
No, he's on the screen. He's to your left.
See, on my screen, he's below me right now. So
this is how it is. Do you see?
Okay.
Vapin Trucker.
So how are you doing, Vapin Trucker?
I'm doing good, Tammy.
Good.
Sitting out here in California.
We need to be louder, LabWorks. How are you doing, Paul? Good to see you.
No, that's Paul's hashtag for everyone to advocate. Louder.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Guys, wait.
Oh yes.
We have to do this. You ready? Are you ready?
Can I just say one thing first before you do that?
Okay.
Because I said this to Paul last night, and I'm going to do it live.
Okay.
Paul, happy anniversary of the day your face touched your mum's vagina.
Oh, yes. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
All right, to you, Liana.
Yeah. Are we gonna sing? You guys gonna sing with me?
Oh, I don't sing.
So nice. Remember
You
that
do.
you sing to folk art? I can't sing like you.
Come on, I kind of, but it wasn't like the real thing. It was like the standard rendition. It wasn't. My heart wasn't in it. I have to have help.
But I sing the Marilyn Monroe version, so
I like it. Will you do that? I'll follow along.
you will.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's got to do it.
Everybody, just do it. However you do it. Come on.
I can't do it like I used to. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
You.
Birthday, dear
LabWorks. Happy birthday to you. See, I can't sing. I can't hear you tune.
Happy 50th, Paul.
Yeah.
Is it the 50th? Woo!
It's his 50th as well. So, yeah, 50 years on this earth.
Yeah, happy birthday. And I just had mine on Friday. So, wow, we're just like...
But Tam, let's get this. You're considerably younger. Yeah, 20 years, exactly.
I need a drum? Yeah, I think I need a drum. Yeah.
What have we got on the table to talk about today, Tam?
We have on the table let's see, what did I put on our show thing? We have
steeping,
steeping, storage,
And mix.
storing, mixing, myth busting, all of this great stuff we're going to talk about today.
So, and this topic is one of those topics that if you ask 300 different mixers, you'll get 300 different answers.
Oh, yes. And people will argue about it too.
Look for common denominators. That's what I do.
Common denominator works, but I figure that, you know, what I'm going to talk about is what works for me. So you can disagree strongly. I don't mind. I really don't. I think, you know,
same.
It's
Before
one
we
of
get
those
started,
topics.
can I just say really quick hello to Stalker in the chat? And I don't know if I've missed anyone. And Smoky Blue, hello. And down the rabbit hole, the rabbit dude. Devo is out there. I just want to say hi to everybody. And Joel, he was number 5 in the chat. So woohoo! Good for you, Joel.
I need Joel for my comedian.
I know you do. And Stalker, he's so sweet. I just love him. He just is a sweetheart. I just you know, chat with him every so often and answer questions.
Deep Scream or Tight Scream? I'm just gonna say Salad. Hi, I know who you are.
Who?
Salad. That's a different screen name than you normally use. His name is the Salad. I'm saying hey to him.
Okay.
And Monster Man Vapes. Howdy.
Yeah, Monster Man Vapes. How are you doing? Good to see you. And who am I? Am I missing any? Did I say I said Smoky
Ronnie,
Blue?
James,
and like
Ronnie,
I said, you woke me up after my nap. Said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Nothing. I'm getting up. Let's go."
You didn't say
Adam. Adam's there too.
Lori.
Adam, how are you doing?
Mark Hansen.
Mark. Well, and we have Ronnie
Rasmussen.
I always say your name wrong.
Right.
I just want to say Lumi, but Ronnie.
Just call him Ronnie. Adam. Paul Labworth.
Oh, Wilby James, my neighbor. He's here.
Awesome.
Yeah. And of course we have Labworks, the birthday boy. I'm sure he likes being called that.
Advocacy king at the moment. Advocacy poster child. The voice of reason.
Well, I call him the birthday boy right now. So. All right. Okay, let's get started. I said hello. So if I missed you out in the chat to say hello to, I apologize. I will try to catch you in a minute. Okay. Yes, Stalker. September is a very good month. We're Virgos, virgins forever. That's my motto.
Dreams are so free.
Hello.
Dreams are free, Tam.
That's just what it is. It is what it is. Virgins forever.
Immaculate conception of your daughter. Okay.
I think that's an immaculate deception.
However you look at it. However you want to look at it.
Oh my God.
Not just my daughter, my 2 daughters, and my son.
Where are we going to start, Tam? Are we going to start with steeping, or are we going to start with mixing?
Perhaps
in the order that they happen.
Before you steep, you should mix, right?
Yep.
In theory, unless you're not allowed to have flavors.
Oh
no.
gosh.
Yeah, we don't go there.
Whole nother topic, really, isn't it? But
we need to have a show on that too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we do. We do. All right. Well, let's talk about mixing. How many different ways are there to mix your juice? I would suggest. I've heard some really cool ones, some really weird ones. The strangest ones I've heard is chuck it in a sock in the dryer, in the clothes dryer.
Oh, you're talking about after you, okay.
No,
you put all your flavour in, you put all your PG, your Nick in, everything. How do you mix it?
Thanks, Smokey. I appreciate that.
There's your standard shaking.
I would say something really bad.
I just got my first magnetic heated stir, and I don't know how to program it, but it's sitting over there. The instructions are like Chinese, but I'm so excited to have it. There's that way. Those are just all I've done is like shaking and things. I also have
anybody watching the trucker right now.
I have it
that way.
That's the correct way I did it, but I also have this way.
If you watch the Fog Vlogs later, you can use a toothpick.
Yes.
Yeah, you use a toothpick.
That's sure. Yes, Joel.
That was absolutely. Go ahead, talk about it.
However you agitate your mix. Okay, so you can do it in a range. All right, so shaking works perfectly. Right, so you're doing a small mix, test mix, whatever. Shake it. Not a problem. There's milk frothers. There's paint stirrers. There's that thing Tam's using.
That looks fun.
I'm not sure about it. Overhead stirrers, rotostator stirrers, homogenizers. There's a myriad of ways to do it. But at the end of the day, it's all going to depend on the volume that you're mixing and what you want to pay for, realistically. There's a fellow which I want to mention who his name's Dan, but Mr. Pipes did a really, really good post on vaping community. I'll post the link out in chat because it is well worth a read. And it's in relation. I'm not going to screen share it because it's quite a long post, but it's talking about homogenizing equipment. Now, for me, that's out of the range of most DIY, and that's what we're talking about today. So, if you want to go out and spend anything between $1,000 to $8,000 to $20,000, then you are putting the cart before the horse.
Right.
You do not need to do it, but if you want to and you've got the spare coin, knock yourself out. Most people will get by with just shaking in a bottle. If you start to get into some bigger mixes, then that's when you're going to start really seeing a benefit from a mag stirrer, an overhead stirrer, anything like that. Now, with mag stirrers, I'm not sure whether, many people are aware of the ratings on a mag stirrer. They have what's called an SH rating, and it's SH followed by a number. Now, those ratings relate to water, all right? So if you look at it, I've got it written down here. I've made some notes, Tam. Aren't you proud?
Oh, wow. I love notes.
So an SH rating, you've got an SH rating of 2. That'll do 1,000 mil of water, right? At room temperature, whatever, it doesn't make much difference with water. SH3 will do 3,000. SH4 will do 5,000, right? You can get more powerful, but do you need to do that? Probably not. When it comes to SH ratings, I mentioned the fact that they were relating to water because, as we all know, VG is a whole lot thicker. There you go. There's a what's that? A SH what? What's the rating on that, Liana? Does it say in English or?
Yeah, let me go get. Yeah, it's in English. Let me go look at it.
That is my exact stir, Liana.
Yep.
It's an 85-2 numerical show constant temperature magnetism mixer.
Okay.
That's my exact one.
Is it? Okay, good. I need help with the setup. I don't understand.
That's all right. We'll get into that. But for the purposes of juice, if you're looking at an SH2, which is 1,000 mil of water, you're probably looking at an absolute max with no heat, unless it's a fairly warm day, of maybe 100 mil of juice. All right. Now, when you're setting up your mag stirrer, I would suggest that if you've got 100 ml of juice to mix, put it in a 400 ml beaker because you want it to be shallow. If you've got 500 ml to mix, put it in a litre beaker. The lower you can keep that level, the more efficient the mixer will work.
This is a 400 size. That's
Yep.
the most
So pretty good for 100 to 150 ml of juice in a 400 ml beaker. So.
And then I was also told that certain ones should go into a flask instead of a beaker, so that you don't, because of the volatility. Certain mixes mix different than other mixes.
Yep, absolutely.
And say that again. I didn't understand what you said.
Okay, the certain recipes have different volatilities than others. Sometimes you want to lose some molecules, like maybe some alcohol that needs to come out.
Oh, yeah, I'm following you now.
You know, and then others, from what I've been understanding and learning, you need them in a flask because you actually want to hold that. So there's like some that have stoppers and little vents and all that. It's just like so much cool information. Like it blows my mind, but I'm also really excited.
One of the upsides with using a mag stir is you can cap it off. So everything that you put in your mix will stay in the bottle. The ideal thing is, and this is a controversial thing, is heat. And you see people don't heat, your flavor molecules fly off into the air, they make your juice shit, they do this, heat is one of those things that I use when I mix, but if it is uncontrolled heat, that's where you're going to have a problem. If it is static heat, as in you can set a temperature like on Liana's stirrer and Tam stirrer, you can set it via the temperature probe and regulate that temperature, then that's ideal. A long time back on ELR, the mag stirrer that I had at the time did not have a temperature probe. And I actually forgot that I turned on the heat. So as a result, I turned around and I had a juice which was vaping itself, right? Which is not ideal. Not ideal at all. In fact, I've got a picture here. I'll just screen share this one. These are identical.
It was like smoking.
It was actually, yeah. So I've got a nice little vape sitting on my, and the only reason I noticed it, because it was actually behind me at the time, the only reason I noticed it is because the room started filling with vapor and smelling really good.
Oh, no.
So
yeah.
I did keep the mix. This is shit. When was this taken? I can't even remember, but it was probably 3 years ago, maybe more, maybe 4 years ago. Now this is exactly the same mix, right? And you'll see here on this one over here, the darker version. The label is pretty. Yep. I absolutely cooked it. Now, when it comes to, tasting it after, because I left it for a week and then came back to it, and that particular mix had virtually no taste whatsoever.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what the temperature was, but it was friggin' hot. So it was not a temperature controlled vape at all.
Wow.
But so when you are using heat, if you decide to use heat, I would definitely if you can't afford a mixer with a probe, I would definitely put a thermometer into that mix so that you can actually determine where it is and manually control your heat. And I would suggest also that unless you are trying to gas off alcohol, there's what's a probe? Is it, Tam?
It's a temperature probe.
Oh yeah. So anything like that'll work.
I like to double check what it's doing to make sure it's accurate. And
Yeah, I forgot to get the stoppers that have the probe that goes through the stopper. So I got to go back to the lab equipment and I'll order, like, I just need 2, 1 for each flask.
Yep. And Bigfoot hit it bang on. Only use heat to lower viscosity. So when I mix, the maximum heat that I will put into a mix is 50 C, which is enough that it mixes well, but doesn't start to degrade your VG. VG will actually start degrading, I think it's around 65 degrees. So it's not a super high temperature and I mean, look, the degrading is probably quite minimal at that sort of temperature. But at 65 degrees, you're going to get a slight degradation of your VG. So, you know, use it, but use it sparingly if you're going to use it. That's when it comes down to equipment and stuff like that. And that's exactly right, Smokey. You never use heat. That's totally cool as well, because it is not essential. Because for me, steeping is a wrong word, right?
Yeah,
napping, maturing. You know, it doesn't actually describe what's going on. If you look at the chemistry of flavors, and I'm sure Smokey knows a hell of a lot more about it than I do, but for me, I've always looked at it, and Smokey, correct me if I'm wrong, is that your fruits are lighter and smaller molecules than your creams and your custards. Now, what you're doing when you are aging your juice is getting those molecules evenly distributed throughout your VG and PG. All right. You are not, there are some concentrates that will change with oxidization and stuff like that, which we spoke about briefly before the show. I'm not going to go too far into it because it's, you know, explosion in the head stuff. What I was saying before the show, and this is relevant for everyone, is whatever method works for you, you should use, because when we are doing mixing, we're mixing for end result. So at the end of the day, if you mix something exactly the same every time, then you should get the same end result. So if you want to put, I use this example too, if you want to put 10% apple Fuji in and then leave it uncapped for 10 days, cool. If that works for you, do it. But if you're going to do something that's a little bit special when you are aging your juice, napping your juice, whatever you want to call it, then you really should put that into your notes, right? If you've got, you know, the most magnificent method for getting your juice ready to vape, and it's different from anything anyone's ever done in the whole history of the world, put it in your notes so that anyone who's following you and does the recipe can get the same result as you, because we are mixing for end result. We are not mixing for partial results.
Right.
So
that would be compared to like giving me a recipe for a delicious chocolate cake, but not telling me what temperature to bake it on or how long to bake it or any of that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a more important thing than what you tested it on. Like, I mean, it's always good information to say that you tested it on a recurve at 55 watts while standing on your head, you know, in the back seat of a ute, whatever. Yeah, it's for me, the process that you went through to get the result that you got is probably more important than what you vaped it on. Yeah, and only really if you do something that's a little bit different. You know, I notice on a few people's recipes they say use no heat, which is good information because that's how they did it. So if you want the same result, you do it how they did it. Right. For me, I heat for an hour at 50 degrees, and then let it cool, and bottle it off. The other thing is nicotine oxidization from heat. Go, Liana, sorry.
50 degrees Fahrenheit?
No, Celsius, sorry.
Okay.
50 C.
So what would that equate in? I have to look it up.
100 and 115, so yeah, 120, something like that.
Do you ever vary that for different mixes?
No. I have a procedure that I do. That's how I do it. When it comes down to it, that's how I mix. And you know, while I don't advertise that that's how I do it, you know, the thing is that you know, if someone does it different to that, I mean, the results are probably not going to be super different, let's face it. But you know, they nonetheless they will still be different. I'll just share again. Where are you? There you go. So there is, I don't know where that's coming up. There you go. So there is my little setup for mixing. I've got 2 little heat plates there. There's a probe in each one of those mixers. Now you'll see they're mixing at slightly different rates. It's only because the mixers are slightly different that's the lowest rate that they mix at. I mix slow, and as it heats, that will mix very well. I might give it a slight burst here or there, but you know, that's pretty much it's a set and forget for me because those plates are really accurate. I just pop it on there, leave it on for an hour. It's got a nice little red light that tells me that it's hot. You'll see it just, you know, like on that picture. It'll also display the temperature of what the actual juice is at the time. So when I hit stop, when the hot plate cools down to room temperature, the juice won't be room temperature, but when the hot plate cools down to room temperature, that's when I bottle it off. So, and you know, it is different for everyone, and I can't stress enough that you know, do what works for you, because the end result is what we're shooting for. And if you do it the same way every time, you'll get consistent results as well, which is you know, probably even more important. But yeah, I've spoken. I'm blabbering on here. Someone else say something. I need a rest.
I was gonna add to it is that I'm not that scientific, you know, with it. Like a lot of people can be very scientific, and because I don't have a set, like I get my VG warm enough just so it's gonna stir. I get it warm enough in there so it's gonna start stirring, and it's gonna keep going, and I can get the mix to mix up, and I don't go even maybe like 30 minutes. And I'll tell you why I started doing that. If I'm doing a 15 mil, whatever, 30 mil new mix, I just shake it usually. But when I'm doing like some of my all day vapes, or even when I'm redoing what I just did, like oh, this is good, let me mix it again, try it again. I'll put it on the stir a little bit, and put it in a, you know, I'll do a 30 mil in a 15 mil bottle or something. So I'm doing it just to get that VG heated up enough so that, because it's so thick, so that it will mix for me. But I have one hand, so it's hard for me to shake bottles all the time. And I had this forever, this cute little thing. And this isn't really the good one. I have the good one that's really skinny at the top, and it goes into the little 30 mil Gorilla bottles. That works great. I mean, it works awesome. And I love it because they're plastic. You just go wash them and let them dry. And the other one that actually pops off, you can just put it in the dishwasher or whatever.
Well, one of the other popular, I'm not going to say myth because I don't think it's fully a myth, is the ultrasonic cleaners.
Oh, I tried that too. Yes.
It's when you mix with a paint frother or Tam's little torture device that she's got there. Not sure I'd like to see Tam approaching me with that, but anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
But you're gonna get air bubbles into the mix.
Yeah.
Good, bad, it happens. You know, if you froth it up, it's gonna get air bubbles. Now, one of the best things you can use an ultrasonic cleaner for is to get rid of them. Right? So cap off, you know, you get your nice frothy milkshake mix, whatever you've got, cap it off, chuck it in the ultrasonic cleaner, bubbles be gone. All right? Or you can just let them naturally dissipate. And if you mix it over, you know, if you really froth it up, it'll take 1 or 2 days to get that froth in a sealed bottle for it to go. So you know, but again, it's final results that count. So if you froth, that's cool. You know, if you don't froth, that's cool too. If you use an overhead stirrer, grouse. If you're you know super rich and want to go out and buy a rotostator mixer, you know, you can not steep your juice at all. Right? If you use a proper homogenizer, the smashing of the molecules with a rotostator mixer, you know, you won't need to steep it at all. Which is the link that I posted up earlier on from Mr. Pipes goes through a little bit of that. And I think it was January last year that he posted that up and started playing with stuff. And some of the information in there is really, really interesting. And his observations of mixers after he's had them on a proper homogenizer. It was quite eye-opening as to he doesn't steep juice now. Oh, sorry, he doesn't nap juice now. And as Willoughby James said, instead of steep, I like the word homogenize, and that is exactly what's happening. And if you're using a proper homogenizer, then you don't need to homogenize it by letting it age.
Right.
Right? Because it's already homogenized.
Now you're making me want something. You got to stop. Because
oh, good Lord, you're a spendaholic, you are, miss.
Equipment, and it's like so expensive. Stop it.
Well, see,
this is my method.
Drive, right? Because I drive, I've never found the need to buy a magnetic stirrer, a ultrasonic. And if I bought one, it would just sit at the house and collect dust because I'm not going to bring it on the truck because of what they cost, right? So, but in something that I do at the house, and I'm starting to do it in the truck, right? I buy my VG in a gallon, and then I pour it into a smaller bottle, clear like a ketchup dispenser, like you would buy to take on a picnic or whatever.
Yeah, similar to the,
Right. So with my VG in that, I take a mason jar and fill it with hot water from the tap. And I put my VG in it. And it works enough to be loose. So when you're shaking it, right, it's already looser than what it is normally, and it's a lot easier to shake, and you don't get those pockets in the bottle.
Yep, absolutely, and that's exactly the same. But one thing I will say, when heating VG and stuff like that, with hot water, doing a water bath is cool. You're never going to really increase the temperature past whatever the water is. Right, so I would suggest people don't use boiling water. I would also suggest people don't put their juice in a microwave because it is uncontrolled and you do not know the temperature when it comes out. And like all these things have been used and tried and played with, but you know, I would suggest if you're going to use heat, do it in a controlled manner. That's all. You know, like whether you add your nick before or after, that's another thing that people talk about a lot. You know, oxidizing from heat, etc., etc. I'd suggest that you get over the course of an hour or at 50 degrees C, the amount of oxidization is going to be so minimal. There you go, boob steeping. That's another method.
Yeah, stick it right there.
My personal mix is how I do it. I mix it in this. My husband shakes it only to the point where it looks like champagne. Okay? I made the mistake one day of asking my teenager to do it while I was mixing another batch. She brought it back and it frothed. It was the first time I saw a recipe in a froth. I had to take the lid off, let it sit, let it all come up, and then put it out. And I'm like, honey, next time I just say, like, shake it till it just looks like champagne, that's where you stop. And
but see, that froth, I would have left the lid on.
Well, I just had to let it just sit there until it all, like, went to the top. You know, I'm still a beginner and learning to understand all the chemistry behind everything, but it really cracked me up because, I mean, she whipped it into a frenzy. Generally, my husband only mixes it to the point of champagne bubbles, and then he'll bring it back to me and set it down, and it's perfect. But she didn't know. Yeah. She knows now. Yeah. Like, you don't have to
but yeah, Smokey mentioned it. Just mention it. Yeah, taking the lid off. There goes your flavors. Now, if you're going to froth a mix, it's not a problem frothing it, but keep it in a closed system. Like, because all of the aromas that are gassing off are still in that bottle. So if it's frothed like a spastic champagne glass, then just close the lid, leave it closed, let it sit. Put it in your ultrasonic cleaner if you've got one. I wouldn't be rushing out and buying one unless you've got a shitload of tanks that you can use it to clean with as well. So dual use it. But yeah, just use it. Leave it closed. Leave it closed.
The lid is only off for 60 seconds, just so you know. I do not let things air out forever. It was off just for a minute, and then I put it right back on.
There's another little cool tool which because I used to mix quite often in bottles, and a lot of people do. But there's a cool little mixer that you can get. See this? This is a stainless steel covered in Teflon. But when you put it into the bottle, right, then you mix, then you pull it out of the bottle.
Nice.
That's what my other one's like. Is like that.
They're a really useful tool for bottle mixing. If that's
you can actually put it in a bottle like this.
Yep.
And stir it, and it's like stays like in a closed system almost, and then you pull it out. Yep, absolutely.
So there's as we've talked about, there's a few little things that do's and don'ts, I guess, but there's as many people as there are in the world, there's different ways to mix, but you've got to do what works for you. And if you do something that's different, as I mentioned before, then just say that this is how I aged my juice. I did it slightly different to normal. I put it in a sock and threw it in the clothes dryer for an hour.
I've heard of that.
So, that's and as far as adding nick before, after homogenization, after this, when you're ready to vape, it's a personal preference. Add it when you want to add it. If I add all mine, everything at the same time, and mix it, bottle it off. Other people will mix it, let it cool, add the nick, mix it again. Other people will steep it, then add the nick. There are some flavors where adding the nicotine prior to nap time will actually help the juice.
Yep.
One in particular, and I know it's sort of fallen out of favour to a degree, but a lot of people still use it, is Cap VC1. Now, Cap VC1, use it, don't use it, like it, don't like it, as the case may be, but it is a long steeper. And the reason it is a long steeper before, like the time that it takes to actually taste good is some of it is due to oxidization. So the oxidization of your nic and flavors is actually helping Cap VC1 taste better. And in tasting better, it also has diacetyl in it. Oh, while it's not in there to start with.
Does it also hold true for, is that the same for, say, regular freebase nicotine or salt nicotine? Is it
salt nicotine will oxidize a lot slower than freebase nicotine. There's always been a little bit of to and fro in regards to PG, VG nicotine. Which one do I use?
I have
for me. I use VG. Now the reason why I use VG is because that allows me to always hit my desired percentage of PG, VG, irrelevant of flavors, etc. Because the flavors, it will allow me to hit 80-20 on pretty much everything. I also find, people say it's hard to work with. It's harder to work with simply because it is thicker, but it is no different to using VG. You can actually do a totally PG-free mix with VG nic, and that's desirable to a lot of people. So yeah, look, it's a personal choice. I use it for the specific reason that I can actually then do a max VG mix, which is, essentially PG free, and the amount that I put into a mix, the PG ratio is never going to change. So for me, that is something that is important to me. It may not be important to anyone else, but it's important to me to actually be able to hit that percentage that I desire. And there you go. 6-month-old bottle of Cap VC1 is liquid gold. There you go. Now, the reason why you've got liquid gold there, Willoughby James, is acetonin, which is the A or one of the A's in DAP, will oxidize over time into diacetyl. Acetylpropanol can, under certain circumstances, also oxidize into diacetyl. If you're having a look at steep times of different things, I'm sort of moving into the steep thing. So I might stop there and just go, someone else talk about mixing, because we're still in the mixing stage, really, aren't we, rather than steeping. But I'll go into steeping, and I'm using the word steeping only because it's so ingrained everywhere that it's steeping, but it is technically not the right word. So I just want to stress that. But so Mike.
Oh, I was fine with you going on to steeping.
Bye.
I was just sitting here listening.
Yeah.
I will add, if there's anything regarding steeping that we haven't covered, that you all have questions in the chat, just tag one of us in the chat and we'll get back to it. But
yep, absolutely. So the rule of the game with homogenizing, napping, sleeping is the bigger the flavor molecules, the longer they take to actually be right. Which is why day after, 2 days later, your fruits are ready to rock. Your creams and your custards, bit longer. Your tobaccos and such, because that molecule from those particular flavors is going to take a longer time to spread itself through the mix and become uniform. So you can judge a lot by the components of the flavor as to how quickly it's going to homogenize. But as a rule, the bigger the flavor molecule, the longer it's going to take. It's not rocket science or brain surgery. Oh, it is a little bit. But each mix also will change in time by what other components you have in that mix. So it's quite difficult sometimes to judge a steep time before you've tried it. So have a crack straight after you've mixed it, have a little vape of it, see what it's like. Hit it, 2 days later, in a week, 10 days. The idea of when it is ready is that when it is stabilized and stopped changing, then it is ready. So if you can remember, if you take notes on the first time that you make the recipe as to when it tasted best for you, and you've only made a 30 mil, then you go, this stuff is awesome. I vaped it non-stop for a day and it's gone. So I'm going to make a 500 mil. Your 500 mil is going to take longer to steep than your 30 mil, considerably longer. What you can do to change that is, instead of bottling it in one big bottle, bottle in multiple smaller bottles. Right, and you're going to get pretty much a quicker rest time than if you do it in a big 1 litre, 2 litre Magnum, or a mason jar or whatever you use to mix in. It doesn't matter. But, if you put it in multiple smaller bottles, they're all going to be ready quicker than one large bottle. So that's something else to...
How much does it change? How much does it stretch it out? Like, let's just say a recipe takes 7 days to get peak for a 30 mil or a 60 or even a 120. How much does that change if you decide to make a 16 ounce or 1 liter batch of that?
How long's a bit? It's not a linear thing. It's how long's a bit of string. It's going to depend on storage. It's going to depend on temperature, ambient temperature, all sorts of things. So if I was to do 120 mil mix and it's ready in a week, I would say a 500 mil mix, you'd be probably looking at 3 weeks.
Wow.
Ish. So to get to the same stage. And as I said, though, it's not linear. Like, I mean, if it's a fruit mix, 2 days, you can vape it after, maybe 4 days in a large mix. It's really hard to judge, and it's something that you have to do on each individual mix. Chuck on your bottle the born date, that's the day you mixed it, and testing dates and notes with those testing dates. And once it's stabilized, then, you'll get a good idea of how long it's going to take for that. But you have to do the same when you do a large bottle. Is you're going to go, all right, well, I've just mixed a 500 mil, a 2 litre or whatever. You still go through the same procedure of testing it. Once you've done it once for that recipe, provided your mixing method doesn't change, then everything's going to be the same.
So for a fruit that usually was perfect the next day, overnight, in a 120, and I decided to do a liter, it's highly likely, not definite, but highly likely that it's going to take 2 or 3 nights to get to the same point.
Quite possibly, yeah. Yeah.
Now, something that you can do is, if you were doing like he said, if you have a mix that you know you like after 3 days, mix you a big batch of that, but separate part of it out into a 30 ml bottle, what you would normally mix it in. Okay. If you taste that 30 ml bottle every day up until your 3 days, and write notes about how that tastes, so that you'll recognize that taste at 3 days. If you open up that big bottle and take a little syringe out just to drop a little on your dripper and taste it, then that'll tell you where at in that 3-day stage that bigger quantity is.
Okay. That's what I think I want to do, because I want to make a big bottle of, say, Mr. Strapamelon. That's one of my favorite all-day vapes. And that's exactly what I want to do. And I put some in little bottles, like I'll put some in 30s, because I like to carry those in my purse. They fit in the motorcycle clip-on purse. They fit in my bag. They're easy to just pop the lid off and put more in there. So, and I have some little tiny droppers. That's a really good idea. I appreciate this knowledge. I had no idea that being, a bigger batch was going to take longer. And I'm hoping the magnetic stir kind of helps that not happen, because that's going to change my usual shake method.
It's going to change your starting point in that steep process.
Right. And that's it was only $30-something. That was a really sound, simple on eBay. I think it was less than $35.
I just want to answer Sue Cool in chat. Is there certain vendors of flavors that need more steep time than others? Yes, there most definitely is. Flavora, for example, most of their stuff is good to go in 7 days with a medium-sized mix. That's pretty much across the board. The older school flavors, TPA, Capella, will take a little bit longer, in my opinion. There's probably something that you need to look at is strength of the concentrate as well. For me, the stronger the concentrate, the quicker it homogenizes. So if you have to throw in 10% of something, then it's going to take time. If you throw in 1%, for me, as a general rule, the more powerful the concentrate, the quicker it's ready to rock. Which is why Flavora are in that range. There is a bit of an exception to that rule, though. In medicine flower is
I was going to say medicine flower, yeah.
Because medicine flower, you get a big hit of flavor when you first start, and and some of them disappear completely at 2 weeks. So you can't taste a particular flavor in them. Then they come back, and then they stabilize. So it's something that when you're playing with and that's obviously that's not all medicine flower. It's a lot of them, but it's not all. So it's something that you have to really pay attention to when you first start playing with a particular mix, and testing throughout the resting time is will give you a really good idea of the weirdness that happens as juice ages and while it's in that stabilization period. It's like I've, and I bet everyone else has too, is you've gone too early and altered a mix. You've made this mix, and straight off the mixer you go, oh, this is going to be wicked awesome, fantastic, best juice ever made. And you write that in the comments and you release it, and then 2 weeks later there's nothing there, and then 2 weeks later it's back to being great.
Right.
It's
they go like this, and then they come back.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's all different kinds of flavors, like mint. Like I had no idea that it was there, disappeared, and then came back. So I have to wait. So it changes the overall. Like the chocolate mint fudge didn't have enough mint, so I had to add more, a little bit more. And now I gotta wait one more day. I think it might be ready today for me to test it again and see if it's, it vanished and came back. So I'm giving it its full chance. And I said I test it all the time. It's a fascinating process. It's very time consuming, but once you have a recipe down and you have all these proper notes taken and you're doing it the right way, it's not a problem.
The resting cycle of a recipe is to know that is really important too. Because if you have, I don't know, tipped a little bit too much of something in there, it'll disappear. It might taste great when you first mix it, but as it settles through the juice, it might just turn to nothing and might never come back. If you use not enough, same deal. You've got to hit the window for the particular flavor, and knowing your flavors, knowing how they react over time, as is really important, because as I said, we mix for end result. If we don't mix for I tell lies. Some people mix for I want to vape it right now, and there are a lot of mixers like that. They will mix something up in the morning, vape it during the day, and they're all happy. They're happy with that. If you are trying to get a recipe out which you feel is balanced and as good at 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, then you really need to, pay attention to the curve of the change in that juice and where it is finally going to end up, not where it is tomorrow, but where it's going to be in 6 months. So yeah, that's me. That's and steeping. Do you need to put it in a dark drawer, Tam?
I don't always.
I put mine in a dark room temperature cabinet. It's the whole top shelf of the dark room temperature cabinet.
That's what I thought you meant, James. That's awesome. The Pokemon set. That's what I call it. The Pokemon set of Flavor. He's 2 flavors away. Awesome.
Woo-hoo!
I don't always put them in a dark drawer or cabinet, but when I leave this room, the lights are out and it's dark. I have like dark curtains on the windows and it's like black in here. So I guess it's in a dark room. And it's always
I lean towards the difference it makes is so small it doesn't matter. That's a personal opinion, and forever from day one, throughout the whole time that I've been mixing, it's put it in a dark cupboard, store it away from light. Yeah, okay. It can't hurt, can it? But I don't do it.
No, it won't hurt at all.
It doesn't hurt it. I have heard of people storing their fully mixed juices in the fridge. Well, that will not change anything. So if you put it in the fridge, any change in the juice is going to be slowed down. So if I wouldn't ever put a juice in the freezer, by the way, either. But if you want to slow down the steeping of a juice, chuck it in the fridge by all means. If you want it to actually develop, don't put it in the fridge. It's going to it'll slow everything down.
Molecules like heat, molecules move, and then they form nice new molecules. There's your finished product. You put them in the fridge, they just kind of go, I'm trying to reach you.
Let me get over there.
Yeah,
mold in it.
It doesn't work. I
think a lot of that refrigerator stuff came from, everybody saying to store your nicotine in the fridge so that it doesn't oxidize as fast. and now you've got nicotine in the juice, so you want to put it in the fridge. But the problem is, once you dilute that nicotine down from 48 or 100, whatever that you're using, there's such a small amount in that mix that if it just sits in the cabinet or sits on the corner of your desk, it's not going to oxidize that quick. It's when it's in the bigger strengths is when you need to worry about it.
Yeah, the higher the concentration, the faster it oxidizes, for sure.
Right. Now, so let's talk about the old story that when you're steeping a liquid, and let's try to call it liquid, not juice, if we can. But anyway.
Oh, you're so good. That's why I have you around. I always say that too.
It
keeps us on track.
If you're aging a liquid or letting it homogenize,
or nap,
whatever, you go back and shake it every day, because we used to get told that. Go back and take the top off, squeeze a little bit of air into it, cap it, and shake it every day. I've never done that from the get-go.
No, too lazy to go back to it. For me, you know, like I can actually see some use in that the gas off at the top of the bottle gets put back into the mix and may, you know, develop in the mix a little bit more. But when it comes down to it, I would suggest again that the difference is so minimal that you might see it, you know, you're not going to taste it. Like,
right.
You know, a 15th, it's not much at all. It is so small, it's not even relevant to me.
Right. See, I think it could be beneficial in something like Caps V1, where it needs that oxidation to help it. Right. Every time you shake, you're reintroducing air into that mix. It may make it steep slightly quicker, but it's really going to be negligent, right? Maybe a day or two at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And realistically, I don't think the time that you take to do it gives you the benefit to bother doing it. You know, just if you're going to just set it down, put it aside, leave it alone. If you're going to age it by time, just put it away, you know. But the better you mix something, in other words, you know, from the time that you add your flavors, VG, PG, Nick, all that sort of stuff, and it is, you know, all thrown together and mixed, the better you mix that, the shorter time it will have to sit. Right. So if you can start ahead of that curve by truly mixing it really well, then that time that you sit and wait is going to be decreased considerably.
Right. See, when I mix like in the truck and I have to let things steep, like I've got a vanilla tobacco that I just absolutely love, but it takes 21 days to steep. Okay. I've got a box up here on the top above me, a wooden box and I mix in the short 4-ounce mason jar. Real fat. When I mix that particular liquid up, I use a frother to the point that it almost looks like milk. It's very, very thick. It's very milky looking. Then I just cap it and set it up there. It still takes 21 days, but I know it's mixed well.
Yep.
And you know what's cool about you? Because I've rode in a truck for a week. Only a week. It's bouncing all the time. So that mix is agitating all the time in that truck. So it's getting plenty of.
Well, that's why you don't go back and shake it, Mike?
Yeah, well.
You don't need to shake it. It's getting agitated.
But yeah, look, there's another method too, which has been I've seen it mentioned, and I've done it, and yeah, it does shorten your time for waiting. Is that you do what's called a seed steep. where you get
I do that
already,
all the
and I'm going to use steep because, as I said before, it's so ingrained. I'll just give up and just use it. But you use a percentage of aged juice and a percentage of fresh juice, and chuck them in a bottle together.
Yeah, so you have a little bit of your juice left.
Yeah.
I just mix on top of what I have left.
Yeah. So
it's not really going to speed the steep though, but it just helps the flavor to me.
Well, if you did a half and half, then it most certainly would.
Yeah.
So, but when it comes down to it,
that's what it's called.
Yeah. So there's that as well. If you decide to, you've got your 300 ml bottle or your 500 ml bottle or whatever, and you say, all right, well, I'm at 250 ml of that. I'll mix another 250 ml or another 500 ml and chuck it in over the top. Then that's going to decrease the time that new mix is going to be ready for you to get to hit it. So, which it's another little thing that another variable that you can throw into a mix. But again, you're still going to have to do your testing and work out when that has stabilized, and so when it stops changing, it's ready to rock. But so I mean, there's as I said when we first started, there's so many variables in this that it makes it hard to say definitively this is what you have to do, because it's just not true. Anything that you say, if you use a mag stirrer, use overhead stirrer, homogenizer, whatever you've got, then you've got to still test it over the time to work out when it's ready to go. But what else we got on the table, Tam?
Oh, me?
Think about this anymore? No, I do. It's all good.
Sorry, like noobs or boobs? Which one? See, I went there before he even typed it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, he's getting his N's and he's getting his N's and B's mixed up like he gets his C's and H's mixed up, Paul? Paul knows what I'm talking about with mixing up C's and H's.
I left them out in the sunshine way too long, and that was the only part of me that wasn't tan, because I've been hiding in this cave for freaking days. I go to work, I go to the cave, and I fried this in my knees. My knees are so tender. I had to wear shorts today. It was really funny, but I had fun on a river float. It was so bad. So yeah, they're quite red right now. I had to put burn gel on. So yeah, they have that probably smell like barbecue chicken or something.
Nice barbecue chicken.
Is that your chicken fillets? Your chicken fillets are cooked.
So I saw a subject in the chat that was kind of interesting. Miguel was talking about, mixing something on day one, and then tomorrow it doesn't taste any good. Is it garbage now, or what's going on? So how do you all determine, like, when it's time to make that decision that I need to add something else to this, right? Because I'll make a 30 mil to start, and if I usually vape it pretty quick, then I'll put it in 100 mil, and I'll let it do its thing. But I vaped through this 100 mil. I vape something out of this every day, usually a tank full. And every day I'm tasting it. Every day I'm tasting it. By the time this bottle's gone, I'm going to know if I need to add anything to it or not.
Right.
Yeah. See, that's my test mix. I do 120 mil straight off the bat. That's my initial test. The reason why I do that is I'll do 120 mil, and if I need to change it, I will cut off a certain amount and change that certain amount.
I did that the other day.
Yeah, there you go. It's a good practice because you get you get an idea of if you've actually made it better because you've still got your original bottle.
Yes.
You know, so you know, the whether, and getting back to the question that you're asking, Mike, is when do I decide when it needs something? It's rare that something that tastes like absolute crap after day one is going to taste wickedly awesome. It happens, but it's rarer for that to happen than, yeah, it tastes good after day one and tastes fantastic after day 15. You know what I mean? It's that one. Time is not going to make a really bad recipe better. so there can be that point where you just cut and run and do a remix. If you lose the flavor after a day, there could be a couple of things there, Miguel, one of which might be sensory overload. So, you know, if after that day, you say the first hit you take, you get this great flavor, and then the second hit, then you get nothing, that's over flavored most likely because your taste buds are going, rah! So I would suggest to you, if you made a decent size, 8% total flavor, it depends on what the flavors are, but I would suggest to you to grab a portion of that mix, dilute it, see if you get the same result. If you still get the same result of no flavor, then you may need to increase the flavor rather than decrease the flavor. It's like sensory overload. I mean, your taste buds were designed to recognize things that are poisonous to eat. So they, you know, like the fact that you can taste nice stuff generally tells your brain that this is okay for me. If something tastes horrible, then, you know, your brain will go, no, that tastes horrible, spit it out, it's poisonous. But what happens also with that stuff that you like is over time your taste buds will either get used to it and ignore it because they know it's no threat, so it doesn't register with your brain. Or if it's too much flavor, your taste buds will go, holy cow, I need to back down this, it's too much. So the signals to your brain might, you know, your brain might ignore it because it is too strong.
I agree. It's just like a cologne that you just bought that you really, really like. So you decide to just coat your body in it, okay? And then you like it and everybody says, oh, yeah, like that's nice. And the next day you overdo it even more, but you can't smell it. And everybody else is like, whoa, dude, that's too much. Your senses will do exactly what Simon's talking about with taste, smell. It's overload. You go blind, your hearing sharpens. I mean, everything changes.
Miguel, I would be curious to know, you said there's one cream at 1%. The other three flavors, are any of them like a lemon or a lime? Because you've got to plan those for the steep. Lemons and limes, they're going to fade pretty quick on you. And so I know there are lemons that you can taste it today and tomorrow you can't.
Yeah. Is that Shido's mango sticky rice? Or is it Shindo's? You made those.
Shindo's mango sticky rice.
Is that just 3 flavors?
And like ethyl maltol, like he was just saying, ethyl maltol can mute various flavors, and some flavors have a lot of it. So, like, you know, if there's
you've got to when you're talking EM and stuff like that, you have to look at cumulative effect. If you put flavors with EM in it and then add EM, then you've got a cumulative effect. In that you don't know how much EM's in there, but it can drop the tops and off everything you put in there, which you know, it's sometimes it's useful, other times not so much. EM is not designed as a sweetener, I want to add, and a lot of people use it as one. It's actually designed specifically to remove harsh notes, and by removing the harsh notes, it knocks the top off the high notes in your juice.
I have to look at that recipe. If I were to add anything to mango sticky rice, to boost that mango a little, I would add Effie mango, just a little, not much, just a little bit.
Well,
kinda,
now that ricey flavor from the Flavor Express rice, to me that does fade off, but it's not after a day. I mean, that flavor changes.
Yeah, that does fade in a hurry. Yeah.
After a week and a half. The mango, I think he used Flavora mango also, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah, and from memory, it's really, really high. For me, I would drop it. I mean, look, I'm not here. My taste differently, but for me, I wouldn't go there at that high.
And then the 1% Flavora cream.
Is that what it is?
That for me is fairly high as well.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, as everybody knows, I have a raspberry cream that I've been working on off Flavora, and that's right around where I'm using the cream. And for me, after like day 2, there's no flavor, right? If you taste it like on the back of your hand, I can taste it and it tastes great. But it took like 2 weeks for it to come back around where I can taste the raspberry and the cream in the vape. But everybody raves about that recipe, so I don't know
why. There's 6 flavors in it.
Yeah. For me, I would probably personally, and this is not a sledge on the recipe because it's a very popular recipe, but for me, I would probably knock the sweet rice back down to maybe 3.5. I would probably also knock the FLV mango down to an absolute max of 1 and probably support it with FE mango as Tam mentioned. But that's me, like different strokes for different folks. Miguel, I would actually leave that for a couple of weeks, come back to it, see how it is. And if you're still getting the same results, I would start playing with the flavors to make it suit you.
I don't know. In a couple of weeks, that rice is going to be gone.
Well, at 5%, I would suggest, it probably will be. That's for. I'm not quite sure whether that's mixed for virtually a shake and vape.
It is.
Yeah. So
it's supposed to be.
Yeah. That's not my style of mixing. I would tend to go a lot lower. But as I said, that's me. That's not everyone. And I also would add a caveat to that in that I vape at quite a high wattage. So more wattage, more flavor.
I was going to ask what device he was using.
It is relevant. It is relevant.
Well, it is relevant, but if he tastes it right after the mix and the next day and he's using the same device, I think I may be on your page now. Maybe those flavors are too full for him. Yeah.
There's 3 classes of taster in the world, and there's if you take 4 people, the chances are you're going to get 1 super taster, 1 who is slightly blind to tasting, and 2 normal tasters. Now, there is a little test that you can do for super tasting, and that's count your taste buds, which is kind of funny.
Oh my God.
When I say that, what you do is, those little circles that the reinforced circles that you use on a bit of A4 paper to put them in a folder, they stick around the holes so the holes don't rip out. You get one of them, put it on your tongue, and put a drop of blue food dye in your mouth. And what will happen is that food dye will not dye your taste buds, right? And inside that dot, you count the number of taste buds that you have, and that will tell you whether you're a super taster, normal taster, or slightly retarded taster.
Okay, this is
I've got an article.
With that too is
that, Simon. I need to know how to do this. Now I want to know because I have a big myself.
I will save myself the blue dye treatment, and I'll just say I'm a retarded taster.
No, I gotta know. I gotta do this.
Go with the tongue. What good is that gonna do?
Ooh.
Sorry, Tam.
Oh.
If you don't have the brain to go with the tongue, what difference does that make?
True that. Look, there's a link. There's a link in chat for people that want to count your taste buds. It's.
Mike, I see you looking at me.
So
that was brutal.
No, I'm just saying.
It's.
Brain thing.
But.
Like I said.
Joke.
I said, I know exactly what I am, right? And I can demonstrate.
No, I don't claim to be any. I just claim to do what I do, and that's it.
That was just funny.
Ideally, as a mixer, you really want to be a non-super taster.
A non-super taster?
Yeah. If you're a super taster, you're going to go super low on everything.
Okay, what if you're a medium?
If you now, I say that if you are making juice for your wife, brother, sister, whatever. But if you are making juice for yourself, you got to suit yourself, and that's what it comes down to. But it's an interesting little test. So if you've got less than 15 taste buds inside the hole on your tongue, you're a non-taster. If you've got 15 to 35, you're an average taster. If you've got 35 plus, then you're a super taster. So identifying where you fit into the mix, it's highly irrelevant, but it's kind of interesting to see where you fit into the mix compared with everyone else as to whether what you're mixing, what you're publishing will be something that everyone can enjoy. You know, it's kind of weird to put blue food dye on your tongue and then can't.
Yeah, I gotta do it. I have blue dye. Obviously, it's not. I have food coloring in the kitchen. No, I'm so gonna do it.
Take pictures.
I need to know my taste buds per square. It's a square inch or centimeter.
No, you know the hole that you punch in the paper when you those on the hole. Yeah. So in that section, in that size, you count the number of white dots because the food dye doesn't dye the taste buds. It just dyes your tongue around your taste buds. So your taste buds will still be white.
That is just so cool because now I got to do it. I'm going to need help. I'm going to be going to my husband with this little blue dot and go, honey.
Count.
I'm like, I need you to help me count.
What if every time we published a recipe, we all had a picture of our tongue where everybody can taste buds?
There you go.
Know exactly what kind of deal they were getting.
There you go. This was tested on
on 35 taste buds per square centimeter.
That's what you need to do. That's what should be required on every recipe posted.
A big shout out. G'day, Frank. Happy birthday for you. Just gone by too, matey.
Soccer wants it on video.
Well,
need it on video.
Okay, audience, count the buds. Okay, is there any certain area of the tongue that is supposed to be tested? You've got different areas of your tongue that do different things.
You've got taste buds through your whole mouth, including on your cheeks, everywhere. So I wouldn't worry about it. Just on your tongue would probably suffice, I reckon.
Yeah.
Do it as far in the back as you can. So when you're trying to count and take the picture,
thank you.
I gag.
So I gag.
You can deep throat the camera. Is that it?
I can just throw up on my laptop right here because I gagged myself. I'm gonna have to get a special little tester paper that's kind of thick. I'm gonna do it so scientifically. It's gonna be hilarious.
Awesome. Tam, have I got time for a little shout out? Because I spoke to you about this last night. Now, some of you know I got the full range from Decadent Vapors over in England. Now, these guys, they're probably a smaller flavour house. And, you know, when it comes down to it, it's, you know, one of these things that, can someone take care of that in chat, please?
They did.
But, yeah. But the level of customer service from smaller flavour houses are really, really awesome sometimes. And I want to thank Jessica because she sent me all the samples. And for, you know, every 2 weeks since I got them, she's dropped me a message going, how are you going with it? What do you think? You know, what are your honest opinions? And I gave her a few honest opinions, and one of which was flavouring with colour in it, because they do a really good absinthe, and I really like the flavour, but I'm not such a fan on the colour in it. She said, yep, no problem. I can get you that. I will make that for you. Now, that's pretty responsive from a small flavour house, that they are willing to go that little extra mile. And I really love that because, you know, when you're mixing, you know, if you love a flavour, but it's got colour in it, it for me is a drawback. If the flavour house is willing to make a specific mix for you and send it to you, I think that is a really good response from a small place, and places like that really should get our support, I reckon. Their flavours, from what I've tested so far, I really like them. But, you know, I haven't had a response like that from any other flavour house ever. And I really want to say thank you, Jess, for looking after me with that. So that's me. Everyone's quiet now.
Yeah.
I think we're just in shock that it's stalking and it's crazy stuff.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. It is what it is, right?
It is.
Yeah, but when you don't know the full story, you can make comments like that. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I don't give that person any oxygen. I've got no time for shit like that.
Absolutely. Not for stuff like that.
No.
I've never exercised my authority, so I don't even know how to do it. Now you're all making me itch to like swing a wrench. You'll have to educate me on wrench handling.
Yeah, well, you know, some people have nothing better to do with their time. I think I would suggest that, you know, live your own life, do your own thing, be happy. You know, there's no need whatsoever.
Don't step in other people's business.
Yeah, I don't care. But also, I would also suggest know the full story before you make comment.
Except for taste bud counting, because just like everybody needs to know now. How many of you got before we ask you to judge? We want to know your taste bud number.
Me?
Yeah,
I'm just average.
That's a whole other issue in selecting judges.
I'm just an average taster.
Mix according to them. Now we know how to hit them. You know, like
I've got 3 taste buds and they're all on the bottom side.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, what else have we got on board, Tam? We've sort of covered mixing and stuff.
What do we talk about with storage? Did we already cover that?
Sort of did, I guess. When I was talking about, you know, I don't bother putting it in, you know, dark cupboard and stuff like that. That said, like I store in both plastic and in glass. So I do a 1 litre, a 2 litre mix, say. I do half of that goes into 120s and 60 mils. The other goes into a 1 litre bottle. And I just want to show this. There we go. Is that quite clear, people who were questioning?
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
Talking about that here.
So, yeah, I put it into a bottle. I put it into a 1 litre bottle. And once I finish the plastic bottles, then I decant the 1 litre bottle and mix again. So, different for everyone. But I do use amber glass for storing the 1 litre. But
I couldn't afford the glass, but I got amber PET.
Yep.
For my big storage.
Yep.
Frank. So do you remember what show it was when I started the chocolate mint fudge quest? Do you remember the show, Tam? This is the second batch of it, and it was done on 8/20. And I waited, and it didn't need anything taken out. It just needed a little bit more mint because it was just barely perceptible, and now it's like perfect. And I love this stuff. This is what I vape on when my coils are about to take a crap, and then I just enjoy all the chocolate and all that good stuff. It's like timing. I really love this stuff. It's good. It's dessert. It's a God, you guys.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I love it.
I don't know when it happened exactly, but we took a left turn.
Yeah, not Mike, you're supposed to keep us straight, trucking straight, not
I love you guys.
But yeah, it took a left turn, a right turn, a downhill turn. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
I like the Cali. I like the Cali wig. I think that one would be appropriate. The Cali synthetic.
That said, Raquel Welch, you know.
I reckon both of us could rock them, mate. Any one of them, we could rock it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are you gonna change the beard to accommodate the color? You thinking maybe?
Well, I've already got it. Dyed grey. So yeah, dyed grey. But so I could probably go blue or something like that.
You could rock a color like this. You know, you really could.
It'd be a bit short though. Just be tipped.
Just like right here, just to bring out your eyes, an actual blue, not this teal. You know.
Yeah, no, I don't care about such things.
I have to tell on myself though. I didn't think about this teal color and the backdrop. Y'all notice I don't have a background, so I tested it right before we started.
Your head was completely
and my head was like becoming one with the background. It was glittering all over the place. I'm like, crap. I love the color, but yeah, my back screen.
Why don't we, Tam? We'll just blame. That was the actual technical issue that we had while we were a little bit late. It was because Liana's hair disappeared.
It did. We had to find it over here.
We had to go find it. Yeah.
I was trying to do a lake scene too because I just wanted something calm and relaxing, and I was part of it. I was in the water. I was in the water. It was great.
All right, Tammy. It's been an hour and a half. Does anybody in chat have any more questions?
Hit them up now.
Silence.
Does anybody on the panel have anything else? Leanne, you got more questions?
I am probably just gonna hit Simon up if he has the time after this. If he doesn't mind. I don't understand
all good.
this part, and so I need his help on helping me set up my mixer because I'm like so excited about it. And then I'm just gonna keep asking questions because that's how I learn. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I've got one thing to say.
Not just you.
This is going to be, I'm going to use this quite often, I think, because I really like this. Do epic shit.
Yeah.
Unless you're too tired or it costs too much money, in which case do affordable shit and take time for naps.
Yes.
Yeah. Epic.
All right.
Epic credit card damage.
And on the epic shit that's expensive, if you do enough research, you're less likely to make a mistake on an expensive investment that you really don't need.
Absolutely. That's why I waited a long time to get the mixer. Tam told me that was the one that she had, and I sought counsel of many before I decided on that one. And then I found it at the lowest possible price I could, and I'm really grateful. LabWorks helped me with that too, picking it out. Like I didn't just go out and buy whatever. Told me what size beakers to have, why I had to have a couple flasks, and I got it really it was all really affordable. I was really happy, but now I need the stoppers with the
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
You shit stirrer, Mike. Yeah, we can hear you, Tam.
Okay. All right. In the chat, I put a link to the Facebook group, but it goes to our file section I created today, and it's one I've been promising for a minute, and it has links. Oh God, it has linked to a Word document that has 3 flavor recipe mixes from Aaron Cazzola. And if you want some really quick 3 flavor banger recipes, go check that out.
Awesome. I will check that out. I actually saw an Aaron recipe last night that I could mix. I'm like,
oh.
What?
So the other thing I want to put in that file section is the things we promised a few weeks back, the bases and things like that we were going to do.
Yep. Cool.
I want to get that in there in the next day or two.
Way to go, Tam. You're awesome.
I try.
You really are.
Oh, good. So we're going to wind it up?
Yes, we're winding it up. So thanks for joining us, everybody in the chat. And if I didn't say hello, I apologize, but I tried to say hello. But I love you guys. And I love everybody here on the panel. And thanks for coming out. And Simon, where can we all find you?
You can find me on VC, vapingcommunity.co.uk. You can find me on ELR, Woftam in both of them. Feel free to hit me up. I'm on Discord. I'm on Facebook. If you got any questions, I'm more than happy to help you out. Time permitting, obviously, but look, throw a question and particularly on Discord, like
Discord, yes.
Tag people if you've got a specific question for any of us. Tag us so that we can get to it, because it would let us know, because sometimes the chat moves a little bit fast and we might miss it if you don't tag us. So just a little and we'll get to you and answer best to our ability. So jump on a Discord. It's a good fun place, and you can do voice chat there as well. So if you're not the fastest typer, then all good.
And I like hanging out with people late night on Zoom. So if you're like really, really bored, hit me up on Messenger, and like we can just like chill when I'm sitting here on Zoom. I got a room. The more faces, the more company, the merrier.
Yep. Which is all good.
Here's a link to our Discord right there. Boom. I hope that's right. Yes. Okay.
So what shows do we have coming up, Tam, that other people can tune into?
Oh, tomorrow at 6 p.m. is Develop. No, tonight is Develop. No, noted.
Noted. There you go.
Noted. Tonight they're going to keep talking about strawberries. And I forget what kind of strawberries, but strawberries. So everybody likes to hear about strawberries.
European strawberries tonight.
European. Thank you, Trucker. And then tomorrow, and that's tonight at 10 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time. Don't ask me any other times. And because I don't know. So add 5, subtract 3, whatever. So then add 14, whatever you need to do. That's what I have to do in my head. So, and then tomorrow at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time, Develop will be on. And tomorrow night at, I think they're at 9 or 9:30, Fresh and Lumi will be, Lumi. Listen to me. Wow.
It's okay.
Will be on and have their show. And so catch that. That will be 9:30 Eastern. Thank you, Frank. And then Wednesday, I don't think anybody does anything Wednesday that I know of.
Maybe I'll have to do a taste bud test on Wednesday.
Oh, you do that.
I have to get a whole punch. I do need to get a whole punch.
Oh, Golf Tea Vapes. Yes, Golf Tea Vapes. Thank you, Frank. That will be on. And so just listen, Frank's just listing them all right there. 10:30 Eastern PM.
Monster Man Vapes. What time is your show on? And T-Cat.
We have Thursday at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time developed again. And then Friday, Fresh. And Saturday, the whole weekend lineup of Fresh at 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time. And then we have usually the fog vlog on right after Fresh, which is around 2:30ish U.S. Eastern Standard Time.
Cat's Corner Neutral Talk, I think, is also Saturday night. Can't remember the right time at this moment, but if someone's still out there in the chat to post that up, I can't pull it up. I got too much in my brain right now.
Don't forget Azza and Steve-O too.
Oh yeah, Thursday night.
Thursday night, yep. Friday here in Australia.
Mixing. If you haven't seen that, go Thursday night, 10 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time, down the rabbit hole mixing.
And Saturday evening, 7 p.m. my channel.
Yeah,
that's right. With so many.
Is this right, Frank? 9 p.m. Saturday Eastern, mixing after dark.
The return of Frank.
The return.
Like
I haven't heard this, so I don't know. Okay, good to know. And then, of course, I did not get to say also on Saturday at 3:45ish is chatting with the Ohmies with my boy Nick.
Right.
Lots of shows. It's like YouTube and chill.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You need a YouTube guide. Like, remember how you used to have the TV guide? You need a YouTube guide.
We could print a little magazine out and send it to people.
We do. We need a YouTube guide.
Yeah.
Recommended DIY channels.
Yeah, there you go.
Advocacy channels. All these good things.
There you go.
Love it.
I like that one.
That's cute.
Run along now, please show that. I gotta share that one with Nick. Or you won't.
And are we mentioning up and coming events like November, Tam? Or is that still?
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure of the exact date, but because obviously I'm mental somewhere, and Nick got me into this, and when he mentioned it, I had like PTSD happen like right away. And I'm sure you did too, Simon, when you saw it. I'm sure you did.
Yep.
Because Nick has no clue what he got us into. No clue. But anyway, we're having there's going to be a mix-off again with the fog log, that it's the Ohmies versus the foggers, if you will. And this will be in October.
October, November, I think, is the plan. We're sort of still sorting out details of how Theo's going to cheat.
Now I want to know. I want to know the judges' taste buds count.
Yeah, we'll get them to do the test first.
I wonder if they actually would. That would just be so.
Oh my God! When I read that,
we need a hyper one, an average one, and a low one, just to make it all fair.
When Nick said that, I was like, Nick, do you know what you're? No. Anyway.
Well, it'll be fun though, Tam. I mean, this time it should be fun.
I agree. It's gonna be
this time. That's what we were saying. Is this time it will be lots of fun. We won't have the cow babies, and anyway, we won't get into that. We're not getting into that.
No. But while everybody wants to win, it's not about that. I mean,
no, it's not. It's about coming out
competition. We'll all learn from it, and in the end, the community will have some more good recipes to bake.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
I do believe that Dave ID10T is going to be one of the judges. So
and Emily.
And Emily, at the very minimum, it will cop a roasting from Dave, and it should be hilarious.
That is just fun in of itself. So,
we were talking about that last night, and it was quite funny. But anyway, wind up time. So, has everyone said where they are?
Everybody
I'm
knows
just
where
Nobody.
We're all here.
I'm just the beginner.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Mike, we talked about you. You're having your show on Saturday at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time.
Correct.
And you're with me a lot.
I am. Apparently all the time.
And any recipes you want from anybody that's part of the group, it should be in the information underneath too. So if you want to find, but I need to put a link to your channel. So if you're not subscribed to Vapin Trucker, please click on his name there and go subscribe to it. Please. And thank you. That was subtle, wasn't it?
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and hope to see you and a few more of you next week. Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, bye.